When I was talking to Susan, and she shared that the message for this month is peace, and I've done so many different talks, and sometimes when we focus just on one thing, I thought, okay, what am I going to actually incorporate in my message? And I'm very blessed with 3 lovely grandchildren, and recently I took them out for a day's outing, and after we have our full day together and then they spend the night and we share together, I always ask them, what was the highlight today? What was the thing you were most grateful to experience today? So we were sharing that, and I thought, well, I'm going to ask them, what does peace mean to you? So my 6-year-old little granddaughter immediately piped up and she went, peace and harmony. And I thought, well, harmony is a pretty big word for a 6-year-old. So I said, well, why would you say harmony? And she says, well, that yoga and stuff. And I said, oh, really? So why yoga? She says, well, you close your eyes, and then she put her hands up in a mudra position, and she said, and you say, harmony! And then she finished with, oh, and I like to be alone in the forest as well. And I thought, wow. And immediately, my 11-year-old grandson immediately went in, and he's what I call a very, very ancient soul. And he piped in right away, and he said, it's when everyone is equal. And he said, when there's a balance in the world and there's no war, when we can all be grateful for everything that we have in our lives. And he continued on, he said, and it's important that we have no stress and that we feel calm. And I went, wow, that's pretty amazing. And then my 13-year-old grandson, who is now taller than me, I just can't believe it, I'm looking up to him now. And he said, well, I think it's when there's no war and no conflict. And he said, and it's when everyone's happy, when we all experience happiness. And when there's nothing to be scared of, and when there's a calmness, and when everything is okay. And I went, wow, out of the mouths of babes. I asked some of my adult friends, and they really had to kind of think and wonder how to even respond to that. So I consider my 3 grandchildren my gurus. And when you think of even the spelling of guru, it's G-U-R-U. And so I find that it's in gratitude that we find peace. When we're truly grateful for all the things that we're blessed with in our lives, we live in a country and in a place where we have so much more than most of the rest of the world. And when you truly feel grateful, that brings an overwhelming sense of peace and gratitude within you. I found that this past year I completed my dolphin retreats and came home and then dealt with my taxes, got that out of the way, and I was very blessed with my brother and his wife have a home in Arizona, and it's in a gated community, and thank God they just put in a pool, and he offered his place for me to stay. I had it all to myself. And I was just feeling, when I arrived, I was feeling this incredible, overwhelming gratitude that it literally was feeling like it was bursting out of my body. And I'm so grateful that they had a pool, because the average temperature was about 119 degrees, and it came to 121 was the hottest day. So thank goodness for that pool. But I was feeling this incredible gratitude, and finally, after 5 years of having put my main book aside, when my mother passed, who was my muse, I was able to go through all my copious notes and compile and finally get back into the nitty-gritty and into the writing of my book. And as I was writing each day, I found that if I got up really early in the morning, I went for a hike up Pinnacle Peak, and I was there as the sun was rising. And to be in nature, and to be in this place that I remember thinking, why on earth would my brother and his wife buy a place in Scottsdale, Arizona? It's just all desert. But there is such an incredible beauty there as well. Then I also found Unity of Phoenix. And it's so remarkable. If any of you have ever been to Unity of Phoenix, it is massive, and there's about 1,200 people that come into that church, and they have 2 services. And so while I was there, a lot of the tourists had already left, and there was still about 700 or 800 people in this service. And Reverend Mirage, who was so inspiring to me, every Sunday, it was like if we had been living in the same house, I would have gone, well, he just went through my notes and just, ended up sharing everything I just finished writing. And he would be sharing that in that Sunday sermon. And so I'd always share with him afterwards and tell him how incredible the synchronicities were. And right down to, as I was writing my chapter on the left brain versus right brain, and I was discussing head injury that I had many years ago. I was hit I had a very severe head injury in a car accident, and I had to relearn how to speak. I actually lost everything that I'd worked my life to build up, lost my homes, and I was researching because I thought, well, it's one thing to share with the group and one thing to share in a class, but as I'm writing and it's in a book, I really want to make sure that I have my facts straight. So as I was researching left brain versus right brain, I came across a TED Talks by Bolte Taylor. And Bolte Taylor, who is a Harvard research scientist and had done a lot of research with brain and brain injury, had experience at the age of 40, had a massive stroke, and the whole left side of her brain shut down, which is the feminine aspect, the emotion, the feeling, and her right brain kicked, which is the, analytical, and the right brain kicked in, which is the emotion, feeling, going, and feeling very calm. And then another part, well, wait a minute, this part of us is shutting down. So I was listening to her talk, and then I included that in my chapter. So now the very next day, I go to Unity of Phoenix, and there's Reverend Mirage, greeting everyone, saying, well, today we're going to talk about left brain versus right brain. And I went, oh my gosh. And so what I found is that when I began to really get into the flow of doing what it is I love to do, and the more I did that day after day without interruption, the more I discovered was there is a power that started to feed through me and inspire me, and then the synchronistic events would occur to validate it. So the clear one, obviously, was every morning when I would go to Unity of Phoenix. The others were, of course, connecting with people that I just happened to come across and know that, a very dear friend, Harriman, was speaking in Sedona, Arizona. And so I was able to go and connect with him again. And it would just continue to flow in that way. And so I found that it reinforced my purpose. And my whole energy that I was experiencing inside of me kept expanding. And it allowed me to, it was like a magnet. And the more that you continue to do that, that energy that you expand is like a magnet that keeps attracting more of it. So I just found more and more to be grateful for. So I was just like, wow, I'd find myself walking around going, I am so grateful, thank you, God. And it is in that place that when you're in an extreme joy, and when you look at the calibration of emotion, according to Hawkins, that calibrates at a 600, and that calibration of joy equals bliss. So if we can find whatever it is that brings us joy, that brings us bliss, and we can live that and experience that, we will discover that automatically we will have a deeper sense of inner peace. I came across this quote by the Dalai Lama, and he spoke of the true meaning of peace. So the most important factor in maintaining peace within oneself in the face of any difficulty is one's mental attitude. If it is distorted by such feelings as anger, attachment, or jealousy, then even the most comfortable environment will bring one no peace. On the other hand, if one's attitude is generally calm and gentle, then even a hostile environment will have little effect on one's own inner peace. Since the basic source of peace and happiness is one's own mental attitude, it is worthwhile adopting means to develop it in a positive way. So I started thinking about, okay, well, what are some of the steps that we can take? Some of the steps that we can incorporate into our lives, or to be aware of, to bring our awareness to. And so I was writing this, believe it or not, at about 12:30 last night, and again this morning, coming up with first 5, then 6, and I've come up to 11, and there's so many more. And so the number one for me, I know, is to be in nature, to be in the stillness of nature. And I find when you can go really early in the morning as the sun rises, it's amazing how when you sit in that stillness, it'll seem unbelievably quiet at first. And then as you sit with that stillness, you begin to hear all the sounds of animals, of birds, of all the activity that is around you. So blessing and bringing in your day with the sunrise, and then with every sunset. And we do this at our dolphin retreats every year, and if you have ever been to Hawaii, you will notice that most people will stop what it is they're doing, and as the sun is setting, everyone will stop and look out to the sun. And if you've ever experienced it, you will find that it will go very, very, very quickly. I found the first year I saw that, I went to get my camera. By the time I came out, it was gone. But everyone will watch as that sun sets and offer gratitude for our precious day that we've experienced. So having said that, number 2 is to be in gratitude. And I would like to invite you to consider creating a journal, to write down the many things that you're grateful for, the things that we take for granted. You know, the fact that we have a roof over our head, that we have food to eat, that we can walk, that we can see, that we breathe, that we can, taste food. There's so many things to be grateful for in addition to the infinite number of things around us. So start writing a journal of what you're grateful for. And number 3 is to embrace the challenges that we've had in our life. Because many times when things are not working out, there sometimes is a reason for that, to take us to where we're meant to be. So rather than resist, and rather than find it really difficult, and what to do is to embrace that challenge, to surrender, and realize that in every moment we have choice. I find that when things are incredibly challenging or frustrating for me, I will step back and I'll focus in and I'll say, well, what would Christ do in this situation? Or I'd say, what would the Dalai Lama do in this situation? And it puts it into a totally different perspective, because everything we see is in our perspective of how we choose to see it. And we always have choice. And it's really important also to do our inner work, to be able to notice what the emotional baggage is, and to be able to seriously look at and embrace that, and find someone that can help you do that and clear the inner emotional baggage. And what I call number 5 is reducing stress. And I had to laugh as I spoke to my friend Dennis and also to my sister this morning. My life has been anything but stress-free. and so it's like I say, here, take my advice, because I'm currently not using it. And I find that I tend to be the queen of procrastination. Anyone here relate on procrastination? It's incredible when there's things that I really don't want to do. I would do anything but that. I'll even clean your toilet for you. And so I was looking through some of my notes. I was remembering that when the son asked his father, what does procrastination mean? The father replied with, I'll tell you tomorrow. And Mark Twain had a lovely quote, And he says, do not put off till tomorrow what you can put off till the day after tomorrow. So I'm sure we all are pretty good at procrastination. And number 6, I call it clearing our clutter. And if anyone's familiar with feng shui, but you know, when you're surrounded with clutter, it clutters the mind, it clutters your space, and if you've ever experienced clearing that clutter away, how great you feel. There's a freedom that you feel inside. The other is to gather like we are today, to gather with like-minded people, to gather with positive people. I love it when I'm doing my retreats and classes because we really connect deeply with each other. And as one is positive and inspiring, it inspires the whole group. And everyone feels such a higher level of joy. And do what you love. It's incredible how many people do not know what it is they would love to do. We've been so used to suppressing our desires. Well, you know, I have to do this to make ends meet. Well, you know, but it's like really find what it is you love to do and do that. Do more of what you love to do, because doing that raises your whole vibration. Being of service. And these beautiful people here that are here of service. And we can be of service in so many different ways. And when you're being of service, there is such a beautiful feeling that you have then inside. It's a wonderful sense of offering something that can enhance and make other people's lives better. And that is to now spread peace. Spread peace. And when you radiate joy and you radiate peace, automatically when people are in your space, they're going to feel that. And simply smile more often. You know, there's so many things that we experience. Life is full of adversities. I found that when I came back from Arizona, and I was in such a high state of bliss and peace and joy, and I have these tenants downstairs, boys that are 20 and 21, and I arrived at home after being away for a total of 5 months. I was 2 months in Hawaii, 3 months in Arizona, and the lawn hadn't been mowed, and the side of the house was a mess, and it was just, instantly I got in, and I just found myself going, grumble, 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 you know, and I was just like this instant drop into how I was already feeling, and then because I refused to be their mother, because I was constantly having to remind them and tell them what to do, and I went, oh, interesting. Why I would suddenly, this beautiful space I was in, it would just dissipate so quickly. And I thought, okay, so how can I embrace this? So I really sat within myself and I decided to text them what it is they had to do. And I signed it Mama Laura. And they loved that. And that shifted the whole energy between us. And then they gladly ended up, you know, taking care of the things that they needed to. But, you know, it's, one of the things that, I don't know if that's me dashing the thing, okay. This is a beautiful, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So how can you, based on whatever it is experience, dance in the rain, embrace it? There's a lovely quote from the Talmud. Every blade of grass has an angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow, grow. We all have angels and beautiful beings that are always encouraging us to grow, to evolve. It's just allowing ourselves to be in that silence and to listen. So it really is, the contagious symptoms of inner peace is being able to enjoy each moment. It is an acceptance of others with non-judgment. It is an acceptance and a love of self, having compassion for oneself. It's finding solutions rather than dwelling on problems. It's learning to trust, to worry less and trust more. And when you have that symptom of overwhelming gratitude and this sense of the energy that you feel, those are all symptoms of peace. When you're smiling often, when you do have the desire to be of service. For when we look at God's gift to you is your life. How you choose it, how you choose to live it, and what you do with it is your gift to God.